Konnichiwa, namaste, good evening, and a very warm welcome to you, friends, on this wonderful occasion when we are having this lecture, in fact, which is not on Zoom, but more than that, we have a big audience which watches YouTube live because that gives them the comfort of seamless viewing without any interruption. And we are extremely delighted and happy to have the inaugural lecture of the Zen Kaizen lecture series under the auspices of the KHS Kaizen Academy at the Ahmedabad Management Association. Friends, on the 27th of June 2021, this term Zen Kaizen as a combo, I think really took a spiral wave on the Google, and thereafter, if you just type Zen Kaizen, you will find not hundreds but literally thousands of news, views, responses, and other things. And that was thanks to the keynote inaugural address that was delivered by the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji on the momentous occasion of the inauguration of the Japanese Zen Garden and the Kaizen Academy, which was set up perhaps the first of its kind here at the Ahmedabad Management Association. And the Honorable Prime Minister did us great honors, giving this close to 16 minutes theme address, and also along with that on his Twitter and Instagram and other social media handles, literally, appreciating our efforts, putting Zen and Kaizen into focus as to, what it really meant. And I think that was a momentous occasion. So we are very happy. I would just like to welcome, I'll say a few words about him just before I, request him to speak. But I welcome Professor Ashok Kumar Chawla, our guest speaker, who has done us the great honors to accept our invitation and talk on this subject. Before I say something about Professor Chawla, I would request my colleague, who is the chairman of the Indo-Japan Economic Cooperation Council here at the Indo-Japan Friendship Association, Shri Yatindra Sharma. And Yatindra Bhai has not only been active with us, but Yatindra Bhai, thank you so much. Your company, KHS Machinery, was gracious enough to give us the seed capital for sponsoring the setting up of the Kaizen Academy. So what inspired you and motivated you to join us into this cause? Maybe you can share a few words of what you feel in your welcome remarks before I introduce Professor Chawla.
Thank you, Mukesh Bhai, our guest of honor, Professor Ashok Kumar Chawla, Mukesh Bhai, my colleague Devesh Radia, ladies and gentlemen. We have been looking forward to this kind of association which can bring forward a kind of a novel concept which can be very useful to industry but also rooted with the tradition. While looking at Kaizen, it reminds us even our own culture, Indian culture, where we talk about yoga. And Yoga Patanjali Sutra, there are two important, shlokas which talks about the evolution of human endeavor. While yoga talks about yogascha chitta vritti nirodham, means the wandering mind has to focus by yoga. The second shloka which is being said, that is yoga karmasu kaushalam. whatever endeavor you do, when you reach the level of perfection, that is yoga. And while we look at Kaizen, Kaizen is rooted with Japanese tradition and culture and talks about continuous improvements beyond excellence. And this is just not a theory on which a practice has been established by industry in Japan. It has been the tradition and linked with the deep-rooted values of Japanese culture, which is a natural evolution in form of Kaizen. While we thought about this particular aspect, we thought that this is a very useful concept for industry to imbibe, implement, and excel. India needs this particular direction for specifically medium and small scale industries, where the mindset has to go towards this particular aspect of continuous improvement and being competitive, having the highest level of excellence, which can be matched with any international product which is available in the market. India had a very rich tradition of perfection in whatever they were doing till 16th century. And the result was that India had a global market share of 30%. We felt that we associate with this particular activity, we will be able to do our small contribution to propagate this culture and thought process in minds of industry of Gujarat and India by associating with the best practices and creating next practices of Kaizen and Kaizen related knowledge. And that was the reason when Mukesh Bhai proposed to me that why not you associated with this particular project. And it is pleasure of KHS machinery to associate with this particular project. And we would like to be actively engaged, and we would definitely contribute continuously towards excellent growth of this academy in terms of programs which are being offered, activities which are being done, and even the kind of linkage between Japan and India in terms of industrial productivity and industrial excellence. It would be our pleasure to take it forward along with Ahmedabad Management Association. And that has been the main reason why we have been associated. On initiation of this inaugural lecture series, I thank Mukesh Bhai to get one of the most eminent thinkers on this particular subject, who has very long association with Japan, Professor Ashok Kumar Chawla ji. And it is our pleasure that we are having him today. And thank you all. And we look forward to many more activities at Kaizen Academy, sponsored by KHS. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Yatindra Bhai, for giving this brief introduction. I think it has set the focus for our inaugural lecture. And as he is very fondly referred to, Chawla Sensei, because Sensei, as in Japanese, is the most respectful title for a professor. And that is the real introduction of Chawla Sensei, because having been a scholar of the Jawaharlal Nehru University, and if I were to read out actually his CV, it would take me perhaps half the time that he would be wanting to talk about on this occasion. So I would refrain myself from doing so, because whenever his name is referred to, everybody holds him, whether it is in India or even in Japan. I don't think you can talk to anybody in Japan who is conscious about the India-Japan friendship who does not know about Chawla Sensei. Professor Ashok Kumar Chawla, I think he has done a yeoman's service, because as far as Gujarat is concerned, I remember right from the very first visit of our then Honorable Chief Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, and each of his visits as Chief Minister and thereafter, obviously, as the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Professor Chawla has every time, accompanied him. And as they say, it is probably because the thought process of a Prime Minister when he speaks in Hindi, goes at the speed of a bullet train. And if anyone has one individual who can match, that speed, I think Shinkansen speed with which the Prime Minister's thought process is going, I think there can be nobody else but Professor Chawla. So he holds, he's held in the highest esteem as far as, a thinker in his own right. But more than that, I think the Honorable Prime Minister so much depends on him. And this momentous address that the Honorable Prime Minister made had a mark of its own. I was sharing informally with Chawla Sensei that, you had a key role to play in that inspirational address on Zen Kaizen. And therefore, after the Prime Minister's address, we felt if there was anyone who should really be speaking on this lovely subject, it could have been none else but Professor Ashok Kumar Chawla. Chawla Sensei has had a very fond association with all of us here at AMA and also with the Japan Center, with the Indo-Japan Friendship Association. And he has also supported, in fact, the Zen Kaizen coming up. Chawla ji, we are extremely grateful to you. And as per the AMA tradition, on the dot at 6:10, I take this opportunity to hand over. Friends, he is going to address us for almost an hour. We'll have questions and some informal interaction thereafter to follow. He has prepared a lovely PPT presentation, which will also be shared. And let me tell you, apart from those who are viewing live on Zoom and live on YouTube as well, this will be the YouTube link we propose to very widely circulate, because I think this is the first of its kind lecture. Not only that Chawla ji is going to address, but Chawla Sensei, let me tell you, the feedback that we have got is people are really looking forward to this because it is going to leave a unique stamp on our Japan-India relations. Thank you and welcome. It's all yours, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the so warm words and a very nice introduction. I would like to thank Mukesh Patel Bhaiji, then Sharma ji and Radia ji and other friends at AMA as well as Indo-Japan Association and at the Academy for giving me this opportunity. So thank you once again, AMA, KHS Kaizen Academy, all those who have put efforts to start this series of lectures for giving me this opportunity. Let me begin with certain things which we are doing at the Ministry of External Affairs to promote the Japanese language. We work in different areas, and there have been requests from different ministries and industry that we should have more number of Japanese language experts who could be the bridge between the two sides. And this has been told to us by different stakeholders that lack of such resources or capable resources is responsible for not tapping the full potential of India-Japan cooperation. We tried to assess the gap, and we found that the gap has been increasing since 1970s. The gap was there in 1970s also, and this gap continues because there have been universities which have been training people. There are different institutes which have been training people. Still, the requirement has been increasing and increasing. Now, in order to meet this requirement, Government of India and Government of Japan signed a memorandum of cooperation on 14 September 2017 to basically train Japanese language teachers and also increase the number of courses as well as the facilities where Japanese language can be taught and learned. This has yielded some result. Some few hundred teachers have been, about 500 plus teachers have been trained in different courses so far. Expansion in other places has also been going on, and we are now trying different models where places like AMA, places like private universities can also start new courses or add strength to the existing courses. It is in this respect, I thought that I should discuss something, particularly in the context of AMA, which is focusing on the management, that what the language does. So today my speech will be basically an introduction of few aspects of the Japanese language and also Japanese management or the work style. This is primarily for higher comfort level on both the sides. That means Indian and Japanese, when they work together or work for each other, either in Japan or in India, maybe face to face, maybe without interacting with each other even. When they do so, how to improve their comfort level. So first is, the understanding and appreciation is something which is the very important factor at any workplace, more so in the case of Japanese work environment. When we work together with the Japanese people, it's not the environment or the working style is not just give and take. And the difference, which people try to understand, that what makes it comfortable to work in the Japanese environment or with the Japanese people, first is that they work in a very simple manner. It's not a complex manner. So we try to unnecessarily think the complex things. We need to behave in a simple manner. Next is that there's a system they create, or there is a system which prevails when you work with a Japanese counterpart. And there's a logic behind that. The people involved do the due diligence. There is a dedication on the part of every individual, the sense of responsibility on the part of every individual. Each individual feels that he or she is the part of a team performing together. Sharing of information, the learning and the teachings is a very important element. And there is a unsaid or unheard concept which is there, the sense of pride and the fear of shame. If I don't perform, then there will be a problem, and I'll have to probably face shame. And if my team develops something, or if my team is able to move forward in positive way, then I will derive the pride out of that. So it's not my achievement or accomplishment, it's the team's accomplishment. The focus is on that. For any work, whether it's a small work or long-term work, there is a setsumekai, there is a orientation. Subordinate on the shop floor or on the work floor understands the 5W1H. That means why a thing is being done, how it will be done, when it will be done, who will be doing it. All those factors are very clear to the individuals. And he appreciates what a senior has planned. Accordingly, he volunteers fully. Now, the Japanese language, people say is difficult. I would say not really. It includes difficult elements. So for that matter, even if I have to learn Gujarati, I don't think I can say that I will learn it in 1 week or 10 days or few months. It will definitely take a lot of time and it will require efforts. Japanese language learning can be very enjoyable. Brief introduction of language and some concepts through the window of language I'll give from now onward for your benefit. First of all, the language has got the components like reading, writing, comprehension, and the application. Comprehension, conversation as one. Some of you who have done Japanese language or have some exposure will know that there are 3 scripts. One is hiragana, the other is katakana. I have put 2 rows of hiragana and 2 rows of katakana. In total, there are 10 rows. So there are 50 characters in hiragana and 50 in katakana. Not exactly 50, but we call it 50. So 50 plus 50 as compared to English 26 plus 26, it makes double the efforts. But it's a question of practicing for once only. On comprehension and conversation, I'll touch upon later. On kanji, the Chinese script, which people say is most difficult or where they find it most sometimes discouraging or leaving the Japanese language learning process because of the Chinese characters. I can appreciate that learning a Chinese character is a time-consuming process. See, learning is a time-consuming process, there is no doubt. But if your teacher is able to tell you certain things the way I'll introduce just now, you'll find that these are pretty interesting and they have done very long-lasting impact. If you see the first character, it looks like if you see a bird's eye view of our field, of our rice field or any field, you'll find it's something like the first character, which you can see just below the word Kanji. This itself means the field. And if we don't put anything, it means rice field, but otherwise it's a field. The next line, there are two characters, and the first character looks like a pine tree. And this means tree. The right character on your screen is the tree, and connected, the two sides connected at the bottom or in the center, and the meaning becomes book. That means many trees give a lot of leaves all put together make a book. And now same tree, when one tree is put at the side of the other tree, it's something like a forest. And when there's a tree above and tree on the side, on both the sides, then this is jungle. Slightly more complicated, if we see the last line, the first character stands for tongue, and the right character is water on the tongue. So if you put water on the tongue, you become activated. So water activates you when it is put on your tongue, and this character means activation. So you can imagine, few words or few concepts together with the verb and noun put together are covered by one character. Now, this is all about the script. Language is simple to learn. You just need to repeat it. Do not mix the concepts. If there are two concepts which are similar to each other, just follow the flow and focus on one at a time. Don't try to, for example, if you have to say, what is the difference between a lane and road? If I am a child and I've just picked up what the road means, and suddenly I want to understand lane also, I think it will be confusing the two. So best would be that I should drive on the road and then walk on a lane. The difference will be very clear. This is how you can differentiate between the concepts. Then catch the core meaning of a word or a concept, and also look at the peripheral meanings or the equivalents that are available. Have the feel of the concepts and clauses. I repeat, have the feel of the concepts, because no concept in one language has got 100% equivalent in other concept. Whether it's a verb or a noun, if a noun in one language may have an equivalent in another language, but that equivalent need not be 100% overlapping. Therefore, the feel is important. Pick and keep aside the known part. Difficult part will become simple in due course of time. And examples, just absorb. Repeat the examples and just keep absorbing. Let me show you how simple the Japanese language can be. Let me give you the example of self-introduction. When a person meets another person, there is a standard way of introduction, and we say, Hajime mashite. I've written in Hindi here in Devanagari. Watashi wa Chawla to moshimasu. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. Now I'll read it out for you in the meaning of these words. Hajime mashite means I'm meeting you for the first time. It's an expression. So you clearly say to the other person that this is my first interaction with you. My watashi wa Chawla to moshimasu actually means मैं चावला कहा जाता हूँ. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu means आपसे cooperation के लिए उम्मीद करता हूँ या request करता हूँ. Now, if you say the things what I have said in Japanese in similar thing in Hindi just as is, you will find that you will be able to comprehend. It may not be making a very smooth Hindi, but you will be able to understand very easily. This is the hint that how close a Japanese language and the Indian languages are in structure. Now let me come to the some traditions. Let me start with the Zen, and I have picked up the meaning, what you see in Japanese written there. This meaning is coming from a dictionary, standard dictionary, which is called Japanese Language Dictionary, Japanese to Japanese, not Japanese to English, but Japanese to Japanese, which is an explanation of Zen. So it's not an equivalent, it's an explanation. And what is written just below that is its literal Hindi translation, word by word. What's written here is Furuku kara indo de okonawareru shugyo hoho de seishi no hitotsu no taisho ni shuchushi sono shin no sugata o shiro to suru koto. And in Hindi it says पुराने समय से भारत में चलता आ रहा आध्यात्मिक अभ्यास, मन को एक उद्देश्य पर एकत्रित करके उसके असल रूप को जानने की कोशिश करना. Now this is what is Zen in our culture, and this is what Zen is in Japanese. Literal translation, you will get the meaning silent meditation, and it's one of the Buddhist sects in Japan. Let me compare it with Meisou, which means meditation literally, and Meisou is two characters, two Chinese characters, and the first character means sleep, dark, or close eyes. I think you will all understand, my Indian friends will understand that close eyes, and the second word says think. So close your eyes and think on something is Meisou. And the translation, Japanese explanation of the Meisou is Myo tojite, it's written here, kokoro shizume, mushin ni natte, sonen o shuchu saseru koto. And if the literal translation in Hindi is आंखों को बंद करके मन को शांत करना, अवरोधक सोच से हटना, अंदर तैरने वाली सोच को एकाग्रित करना. So Zen, as you can see here, is equivalent to Meisou, and Meisou is nothing else but Dhyan of our culture. This is what Dhyan is. Let me talk about Indian gods in Japan. The 7 pictures which you see here are called, the set of its Shichifuku. There are 7 gods which are considered as gods of fortunes, and out of these 7 gods, it's written here for your information from left to right. First is Hote, then Jurojin, then Fukuroku Ju. These are all basically Chinese god of Chinese origin. Then Bishamonten, Benzaiten, and Daikokuten are all coming from India, and Ebisu is the Japanese, you can say native Japanese god. If you see the Indian god, each god name has got Tin at the end, and Tin actually means Asman, Akash, and we very often say Uparwala. So it's related to heaven or God or godly things. And then I'll explain what the words stands for. Bishamonten is Hindu god Kuber. Benzaiten is Hindu goddess Saraswati. Daikokten is Hindu god Mahakala. And the characters I have given here below for Bishamonten. If you see Bishamonten, there are 4 Chinese characters used. The first characters mean help. Second stand for sand or maybe soil. Third is the gate, and the fourth is the heaven. It's up to you to understand that it's a gate to heaven from the soil with the help of. Then Benzaiten. Benzaiten, first character means value. Second character means wealth in terms of money. And third character means heaven. And Benzaiten is written in 2 styles. The second one which you see here has got value, and the second Chinese character in the second option is genius. This is quite close to Saraswati. So value plus genius plus heaven. And then third one, the numbering is wrong, sorry. It's third one is Daikokuten, which is last 3 characters means large, black, and heaven. And now let me show you what actually they stand for. And see, Bishamon in Japan actually is considered as god of fortune in war and battles, also associated with authority and dignity. the protector of those who follow the rules and behave appropriately. Saraswati has got slight deviation, but it's a goddess of fortune, talent, beauty, and music, among others. Often this figure appears with a tori, that is the gate, smart, beautiful with all the aforementioned attributes, carries a Japanese traditional lute-like instrument called biwa, and is normally accompanied by a white snake. Patron of artists, writers, dancers, and geisha, among others. I think this gives you a clear image that geisha is not the image which we have, which generally the word over the image is there in the people's mind. Geisha is a artist, and for them, Benzaiten is the god they revere. Then Daikukten is a god of commerce and prosperity, also considered patron of cooks, farmers, and bankers, and a protector of crops, and also considered a demon hunter, characterized by his smile depicted with a bag full of valuable objects. If you see the last one, this Buddhist deity, death deity Mahakala, is equated with Shinto deity called Okuni Noshin. Then Daikokuji literally comes from three characters, which means Mahakala. Maha is Dai, and Kala is Koku, and it's actually Daikoku 10. Sorry, this is wrongly typed here, and 10 stands for the heaven. Let me go to the other concept which I wanted to speak today. And these concepts are the, so far I have talked about the Zen, about Meisou, about the Japanese gods. So this was more on spiritual side. The lecture is meant for the people who would like to work with the Japanese or work in the Japanese culture or work for Japan. So it's basically to understand the Japanese working style, the Japanese work methods, the traditions that work in the Japanese work environment, and how the language helps there. I deliberately touched upon three areas covering the spiritual part. The reason is that Japanese are very spiritual normally. They may not show that at the workplace, but in the core of their heart, they are pretty spiritual. Then comes the systems which they apply. First is the 5S, and 5S is 5 words beginning with S. First is Seri. I've got the definition of Seri here, which means Iranai mono steru, and its equivalent in Hindi, as it is word by word, is Iranai stands for jo nahi chahiye. Iranai mono stands for jo nahi chahiye. O steru, us vastu ko phenkiye. So anything that you don't require should not be there. This is more understood easily by the people at the shop floor, but this can be understood by anybody, even a teacher. Your table is full of papers. You will not be able to find out the paper which you want to use today if you don't take out or make the organize the papers properly. So the first concept is whatever you don't require, that should not be there. You throw it away. Next is Seton, which is defined as Kimerareta mono o Kimerareta bashoni oki itsudemo toridaseru jotai nishite oku. And it's a literal translation which I have given here. तय वस्तु को तय किया स्थान पर रखें, कभी भी निकाल सकें, ऐसी दशा में रखें. That means you put it in a way that it can be pulled out, it can be taken out, it can be taken out for application or use as and when you require, in the quantity and in the style you want. Now, if you see clearly here, the Seri and Seton, what is written in Japanese, the definition, the literal definition, which is coming from the standard text material, it's word to word translated. So this shows that the Japanese language is not so difficult. Let me talk about the next 3 S. The third one is Seso, and Seso stands for Suneni Seso o Suru. That means Hamesha Safai Rakhe. So slightly different from the way we perceive the cleaning. We do the cleaning as a job, whereas Japanese do the cleaning as part of their job. Whatever job they are doing, cleaning will be part of their job. So if you are running a machine, or if you are, for example, using a table as your workplace, Then as soon as you sit on the table, first thing you do is wipe off the top of the table. Then do the seri setum, that means remove any paper which is not required. Put any paper or any instrument or any device or any pen, pencil, etc., wherever it should be, so that you can take out as and when required. And if you find that there is a pen which is not usable, you throw it away. If there are two pens, probably one only can be kept there and the other can be kept on other side. While doing this cleaning, you will actually notice that you will find out defects. It's the best example is that if you clean your own car by yourself every day in the morning, then you will come to know that a defect which was not visible yesterday has become visible, or some problem which was not visible yesterday has become visible now. Then Seiketsu, it stands for Joki San So Ijishi Shokubano Eseo Tamotsu. Upar diye gaye, this is the literal translation of what I have just spoken in Japanese. ऊपर दिए 3 S को बनाए रखें, काम के स्थान की साथ साफ सफाई को हमेशा बनाए रखें. And the last one is Shitsuke. This, I think we in India also we have this concepts. It's Kimirareta Rur Tejuno Tadashiku Mamoru Shukano Tsukeru. So Hindi translation is तय किए रूल कार्यविधि को ठीक से अनुसरण करने की आदत बनाएं. Whatever Hindi I read out, it's a literal word-to-word translation and not the smooth flow translation. This Shitsuke actually is our old practice of Gurukul, where you are told to do a certain thing at a particular time in a particular style, and everybody has to do that, whether it is cleaning of the floor, washing of the clothes, putting the things in order. So there's a preparatory work which used to be there in the Gurukul Parampara, and that Parampara ascertained that everybody will do it the way it has been decided, without anybody wasting time on questioning or thinking about how to do. Up to here is the 5S. Now this can be called as housekeeping. Many English dictionaries calls 5S as housekeeping tool, but I feel it is much more than housekeeping. You can say it is housekeeping, but it's a huge depth which is represented by these 5 concepts. Let me now go to the Kaizen, and another term is Gemba Kaizen. I am deliberately picking Kaizen as contrast to the Zen Kaizen, because Zen is there in the Kaizen. Let me define first Kaizen. Gemba Kaizen is another term which is used practically in the industry, and Gemba means workplace, Kaizen means continuous improvement. So continuous improvement at the workplace, and this workplace need not be a shop floor. It can be any work floor. It could be a design office, it can be a planning office, it can be a temple, it can be your own kitchen, it can be any place where you work. So Gemba Kaizen stands for the improvement or continuous improvement that you carry out at a place where you work. Its literal translation of Kaizen, I am saying, literal translation of Kaizen is Monogoto o yoi honi aratameru koto. And the literal translation I have written here word by word. That's why I said that it is not really so difficult. It says चीजों को अच्छी और ले जाना, and this अच्छी और ले जाना could mean बदलना और सुधारना. So there could be some iteration you may have to do while understanding Japanese. But if you look at this word monogoto, and nowadays you can scan a particular word and look at it in the dictionary. It will give you things. O means ko, yoi ho means achi or, and ni yoi ho ni means achi or. Aratameru koto may not mean le jana, but it will have something like badalna, sudharna, theek karna, renew karna, reform karna. And therefore I put here, and this Kaizen can be replaced by many other words. But Kaizen itself is an irreplaceable concept. The another word which will give you a slight different shade is Kairyo, the first one just below this, which means a reform to make something good. And Kaizen, as compared to that, is reform to make something virtuous. The first one refers to, for example, you want to improve efficiency of a machine, or you want to improve productivity of a particular process, or maybe you want to improve quality of a product so that the first product itself is flawless. That is Kairyo. You make changes which are physical, which are concrete, can be defined. So tangible type of thing. As compared to this, Kaizen is more of abstract nature. It can go into abstract concepts also. For example, you can probably think of reforming your thinking also, whereas Kairyo probably will not be so easily applicable here. Now, the sound Zen is there in Kaizen also, but these two terms are actually different. As you can see, Zen, which I explained a while ago, stands for something called a sect, a Buddhist sect. It represents a Buddhist sect, and it has come from China to Japan, but originated probably from our Dhyan. So it's more of a spiritual concept. As compared to that, Kaizen, as the term has been explained have got the two characters which are explained, and which I think I missed out. Yes, probably I've missed out. The first character stands for, it's written here, but not exactly what character wise. First stands for reform, and the second stand for making it virtuous, or virtuous. Now, if we go to the next concept, I've seen 5S and Gemba Kaizen. Gemba Kaizen I call because Gemba Kaizen is the right word which is used in the management. Kaizen is a normal concept which is available anywhere and everywhere. Next higher concept in the case of the management in Japanese systems is TPM, that is the total productive maintenance. There are various definitions of TPM. Total preventive maintenance, many definitions are there, but this TPM, what is called TPM, stands for total productive maintenance. And why it comes like that, there is a Japanese word for this, and that Japanese word is written here as Sogo Teki Setsubi Country, which word by word translated just below that in the bracket is total or overall equipment management. So it's a management, not maintenance. So what we normally think of maintenance, that means putting, checking a particular machine, checking its components, oiling if there is some short of oil, replacing the bearing, those are the maintenance type of activities. But actually the Japanese maintenance is management. So in the management, there is a part which is called maintenance, which comes as a component, and the target is to make maintenance zero. Why should a machine require maintenance? So maintenance-free machine is the ultimate target. Its definition given here is Kiyo Nado Nyoite. It's given in Japanese here. Let me read out only in English. It says carry out overall maintenance. This is the process which is done, aiming at reducing the equipment stoppage time. That means you are carrying out the maintenance so that when the machine works during the 8-hour shift or during a lot manufacturing, the machine should not stop. And aiming, and at the same time, activity to improve productivity. The last one, when you let the machine work without any stoppage for continuously for the one lot, or for the shift, or for the continuous production chain, the productivity will automatically go up. And this was introduced by Nihon Plant Maintenance Association in, I think, 1970s probably. And this became a mainstay as a tool which was used by many industries in India also. It has, the definition of TPM is again given in Japanese, and it has been translated below, that aiming at maximizing the efficiency, equipment efficiency, setting up a total system of PM, that is preventive maintenance, targeting full life of the equipment. That means an equipment is, the design life of an equipment, for example, if it is 10 years, it doesn't work for 10 years because there are many breakdowns in between. And when the breakdown happens, something might have gone wrong. Therefore, the breakdown is happening. So the bearing which was supposed to be changed, or the oil which was to be changed, or some Other inspection which was to be carried out was not carried out in time. So there's time loss, there's some damage done to the equipment, and the full life of the equipment is not realized. So this is basically setting up a total system of preventive maintenance targeting full life of equipment. And it covers different domains, the planning, maintenance, application, all other divisions. Carry out PM, this is the preventive maintenance by SGA, that is the small group activity involving everyone, right from top to the bottom, from the managing director to the last worker. This is the spirit of TPM. Then it has got various things. These are the 8 pillars called, and I'll just, for your reference, will say first is the individual improvement or single improvement, and it gives the definition that to cut down the losses, improve the equipment. You improve the equipment so the losses are cut. Then there is a autonomous maintenance. Like this, there are 8 pillars that covers all the aspects of the equipment and the plant. Now, if you see up to here, these last 3 slides about the TPM, as compared to 5S, which could have been called as a preparatory work, which could have been called as, or maybe the Gemba Kaizen also, 5S and Gemba Kaizen can be called as the base, the foundation for making any work platform or making any workflow worth working, a good place to work at, a good place to give good efficiency, to ensure the productivity and the quality. These are the tools used, and TPM basically cater to that. So that means TPM is more industry oriented, where the equipment works, where people work on the equipment, where products are manufactured. As compared to that, the next concept is the TQM. And TQM, again, the definition of TQM picked up from the dictionary is given here on the top in 3 points, and its translation in English is given below. A system that includes in its management strategy the mechanism of uniform quality management targets of the company. In Japanese, it is also called overall quality management. There are various terms by which, if I see the Japanese over there, then there are some different terms being used. One is the quality management. One is management written in English or katakana, and the other is the management written in the Japanese words. So there are various names by which it is known. The equivalent, which I would say for this particular activity, is the business management and all the tools that are required therein. So whether it is 5S or Gemba Kaizen, whether it is TPM or any other exercise or any other activity carried out by the workers, by the players, by the stakeholders to manufacture or to create a particular object in an efficient manner, with high productivity, with low problem or zero problem on quality, that all forms the part of the TQM. And it's more of a management than work at the shop floor. So let me now go to the last concept, and that is the TPS. TPS stands for Toyota Production System. I think I've written total. Yes, I think it's not total, it's Toyota Production System. It's based on the philosophy of the complete elimination of all waste in pursuit of the most efficient methods, has roots tracing back to automatic loom. I hope all of you are aware, so I need not repeat it. Toyota, whose name was Toyota, he saw his mother working on the looms and wanted to make the loom automatic, so that the mother, to save the efforts of his mothers, because it was quite laborious job, and he wanted to cut down on that labor and wanted to develop an automatic loom. And that's how the Toyota production system or Toyota manufacturing itself started. It evolved through many years of trial and error to improve efficiency based on the just-in-time concept. This many years is not very old. It's it's few decades, and not centuries. So in few decades this developed, and just-in-time means that whatever you require to deliver your process, or whatever you require to deliver or manufacture a particular component or the product, you should get the required elements, the raw material, the inputs for that just in time. It is based on cutting down on the waste. It says that waste can manifest as excess inventory, extraneous processing steps, and defective products, among other instances. It's a very important sentence here, that if you get used to bearing with the waste or creating the waste, then you tend to develop a tendency where you will have excess inventory. You would like to have more inventory to be more comfortable, to be more secure that tomorrow's production should not get affected, or maybe next week's production should not get affected. And then maybe you will think that you should have a stockpile for 1 month, maybe then 3 months, because your stuff is coming from very distant place. So you would not like to take a risk. So you tend to go for excess inventory. Similarly, the processing steps also, you want to be extra cautious. You want to probably say that the quality might go down. So I would like to add a checking process in between. So you tend to add the processing steps. And the defective products also become more and more, among other instances. All these waste elements actually intertwine with each other to create more waste, eventually impacting the management of the corporation itself. It started with automatic loom, and the automatic loom was automated work. It automated the work, plus it built the capability to make judgment into the machine itself. That means finally today, the machine itself makes the judgment of what is required, what is not required, what should it shut down or should it pick up something different. That capability comes within the machine, into the machine itself. Elimination of defective products and the associated wasteful practices has yielded or has resulted in improvement of productivity and the work efficiency. There are many other concepts which are used by Toyota or which are developed by them. One of them is Mieruka. Mieruka is again a Japanese concept. Mieru means which is visible, and Mieruka means making it visual or making it visible, which means visualization. That means if I am developing a product in a company and there is some shortcut I am taking, there is some bypass I am using, or there is a place where I am not following the procedure the way it should be done. It should be visualized. It should be made visible so that everybody can look at it and either point out that you are doing something wrong or tell you that you have done excellent thing and this should be standardized now. So what you were using as a shortcut, what you were using as a non-standard way can actually become a standard if that is to become a standard. Now, I brought in after 5S Gemba Kaizen, the TPM and TQM. This was, of course, required to be introduced because these are the 5S Gemba Kaizen, TPM and TQM are the usual work practices or usual tools which are used in the working style in Japan in almost every workplace, whether it is manufacturing area or some other area. It could be in hospitality, it could be in the kitchen of a house, it could be in an office, it could be in construction. In any area, you will find that these tools are used, and these tools are used basically as part of the Japanese mind, and which is very, very sharp or very good at Monozukuri, making things. If you look at, if you Google the word Monozukuri, you will find various examples. It could be very small things like making lanterns. It could be example like making umbrella, making things with hand, where machine is used as a tool, but your hand works in synchronized manner or in synergy with the tools. And ultimately the product which comes out from there is first appreciated by the person who is making it, then it is appreciated by the people around him, that means his fraternity, and then it is appreciated all over by all users. Now this Monozukuri, Japanese take huge pride in this concept, and they don't boast, of course, they take pride in this concept. This Monozukuri has been there in Japan for a very long time. And this 5S, Gemba Kaizen or TPM or TQM or the elements therein in these concepts in TPM or in TQM, they have been there in the Japanese society, in the Japanese mind, in the Japanese work style. But they don't, these were not probably documented. So at some stage when the interaction started between America and Japan, where they started learning each other's system, documentation started. So some professors or some people who were practitioners of these systems and who were teaching these systems in the industry, they started documenting it. And that's how came the concept of 5S Gemba Kaizen on paper, the TPM and TQM. Today, TPM and TQM are very different. What I've just said about TPS here, basically it says that Toyota doesn't follow TQM, Toyota follows TPM, TPS. The TQM, the components are there, these components are common, and those components are followed by everybody in a manner that suits the workplace the best way. In other words, I can say that the tools developed in-house, tools are developed in-house by the practitioners themselves during practicing. And the terms, whether it is 5S or Gemba Kaizen or TPM or TQM, they all evolved in due course of time. Now, this particular, this is my last slide. So I want to probably the message might have gone, but I would like to make it more clear. I started with saying that there's a comfort level which both Japanese and non-Japanese need for each other to work together with each other and for each other. It is that comfort level that comes from the understanding of the traditions and the working methods for which Japanese language plays a very important role. I have tried to explain to you the TPM, the TQM, the 5S, Gemba Kaizen, and more difficult concepts like Zen, Meisou, etc., or the gods, etc., using the Japanese language. If you see the Japanese language, the characters define the scope of each concept very clearly. That means you will be talking about a concept only to that limited extent and not beyond that. So you are focused when you're talking about a particular concept. That's about how the Japanese language helps in understanding the Japanese traditions. When you work with Japanese individuals, whether face-to-face or online or through other channels, and if you speak in Japanese language, they find, because the language has got a difference, I use an example in the beginning, Watashi wa Chawla to moshimasu. That was for introduction. And I will show the slide again. The second one here, Watashi wa Chawla to moshimasu. While introducing this, I did not tell the word Watashi wa actually are the two words. It's Watashi and Wa. Watashi stands for I, and Wa stands for, Wa is a particle, which is a subject particle. So when I say Watashi wa, it means I am talking about myself. When I say Anata wa, that means I'm talking about you. So once I've used a particle, this particle Wa, this does not allow me to cross the boundary of the subject. That means I can speak about myself, but if I have to speak about somebody else, then I will have to use Wa once again. So I change the subject before changing the conversation. So it remains focused. This is what it means. Now, going back to the last slide. When you work with the Japanese and you work in a Japanese, using Japanese language, the language itself defines the boundary. 5W1H is built into, then particles define certain things, and the structure of the language actually makes it more focused. So you will find that the casual talk can take place over tea and coffee, but at workplace, you will have less of casual talk and more of meaningful talk. And if you are able to do meaningful talk in Japanese language, because of Japanese language, this will increase the comfort level of a Japanese working with you. And in the process, you will also find that you can also drive or maybe guide the things in much more better way. And if you know these concepts, which I've just said, the 5S, Gemba Kaizen, TPM, TQM, then you will find that these are the concepts. And these concepts basically by itself don't define that you are good. Practicing of these concepts define that you are manufacturing good, or you're working in a very efficient or productive manner. So it is for this reason that Japanese find it comfortable to work with the companies which are practicing 5S, Gemba Kaizen at least. And if they are practicing TPM and TQM, then they find it very comfortable. So if you feel that as a vendor, you would like to work for a company, or as a partner, you would like to work for a Japanese company, when you try to do work with them, and if they know that you are doing TQM, it means that TQM, if you have practiced it for 2 years or 3 years, and somebody has examined you or examined your practice of TQM and guided you, this ensures that you're following a method which is followed in the Japanese industry. So automatically their comfort level increases. If they tell you that I need the product by this time, in this manner, and with this packing, I hope this, to my Indian friends who are into the manufacturing or into the industry, this must have given the signals that if you get an order from a Japanese company to send something to some product by a certain date, there are complaints, and those complaints are on account of certain things which we sometimes say that cannot be attributed to us because there are other reasons. For example, the packing is done by somebody else, transportation is done by somebody else, and transportation or transporter is transporting on a vehicle which is not my vehicle. That means the vehicle might have some problem. The road on which the goods travel, those roads are probably not so well laid out. So the product does not move seamlessly without any problem. Now those things will go off if you practice TQM, because TQM and TPM will ensure that it is the product which is required to reach the customer, not the way, not the explanation regarding the ways or the problems in between. Now, this is how the comfort level of a Japanese person increases when he works with you. And as I said in the beginning, that working with Japanese, I had made a word there that simple, not complex. Just let me go back. I think I'm missing out the slide. They work in a very simple manner. So if a Japanese find out that you understand what he is saying, then he will be confident that he will be able to get the things done by you in the manner he wants. So this improvement in the comfort level, because you now understand the Japanese traditions or the Japanese work style, and you have strength of Japanese language also, or at least you understand those concepts, the depth of those concepts, or the core meaning of those concepts, or the core representation of those concepts directly from the Japanese language. This increases the comfort level of the counterpart to a great extent. That's all about my presentation, and I hope I have addressed the issue of how Japanese language or understanding the Japanese tradition in Japanese language can help. Thank you so much for being so patient with me. And I'll be, I think there are no questions so far in the chat. So.
Yes, thank you, Professor Chawla, and for your very, erudite presentation. And there are some questions which has come to Radhika. And I request Radhika to read the questions one by one, which Professor Chawla will address.
Yes,
please.
Sure, sir. The questions have come directly to me by private message, so I'll just mention them.
Sure.
So, first question is, how much Kaizen philosophy should be deployed for typical mindset of MSME chalta hai?
See, this chalta hai attitude is something, we discussed at a different platform about the SOPs. SOP is the standard operating procedure. When we develop the standard operating procedure, if you have worked as per the standard operating procedure, that it's almost guaranteed when you work a SOP developed by a Japanese company or a Japanese counterpart, that the product will be without fail as per the requirement or as per the expectation. Which means that if you follow SOP, you don't have to worry at all. That means you become quite inflexible. You simply follow the SOP. Now, as compared to that, our system, the Indian mentality is, it has got an inherent element of flexibility. Even while working, an Indian mind keeps thinking, can I make, instead of 2 products in 10 minutes, maybe 3 products or maybe 2.5 products? Or can I add value in between? Normally, I find when we discuss these things with Japanese, any positive result, of course, would be welcome, but they normally get scared that if you are trying to do something outside the SOP, that means you're targeting to produce, say, 3 products in place of 2 products. They feel that this is not the standard practice. So the 3rd product which will come out will have the quality issue probably, and that quality issue may be there for the other 2 products also. That can probably impact the quality of the other 2 products also. So they don't want to be flexible on the SOP. This is what it basically means. And if there is a flexibility, then this flexibility has to be converted into the standard operating procedure. That particular flexible component has to be tested and brought into the SOP. Now, if we compare this with Chalta Hai has got, no limit of imperfectness. Something is not perfect or something is not coming out to the desired quality or to the desired functionality. We decide, that individual decides, itna to chalta hai, this will work probably. And we say this probably very often at places, if we buy a fan, for example, and if it's giving some sound, the seller will say, nahi, ye to chalta hai, itna to hoga, machine hai to itna to hoga. Now, this chalta hai type is not acceptable normally in the Japanese society. So when we say Kaizen actually it addresses that. The chalta hai has to be defined. That means there is a target which is to be achieved. For example, there could be sound level. So much decibel of sound is acceptable and above that is not acceptable. Or maybe something weight of a particular product. And the weight has come, for example, 10 or 20% extra. Now, chalta hai will be there. There's a tolerance which is given, and that tolerance is defined at plus minus some percentage. Now, beyond that percentage, chalta hai is not allowed. So the Kaizen is implemented to actually bring this chalta hai lax attitude into the chalta hai tolerance level. So the chalta hai is something which is very casual, and depending on the person, it can probably yield the result also. But we have probably I don't know in whether all parts of India or not, but there are devices called Maruta, something like a transporting device which is called Maruta, but is actually using a tube well engine and some motorcycle components and some seat, and which is a 3-wheeler type of vehicle. And it works. It runs on the roads without fail. And there are 15 people sometimes sitting on this one 3-wheeler. More than 10 is a normal scene. Now this is chalta hai. It works because it is working. There are people who are using it, means it's affordable. Now, how we define this is a difficult term, but suppose Kaizen is applied on that itself. For example, if there are 15 people sitting, let's limit it to say 10 or 8 or 6 only, because it's a transporting device. The transporter is making it cost effective by pulling in more and more people. But let the number be not more than a particular limit. This is one Kaizen on the uses. Then there is a sound which comes out, and there is an exhaust, or there is a smoke which comes out of it. Can we check the decibel, the sound level or the exhaust which is coming out of it, and put a check on that step by step? That means if yesterday there was an X limit, we work on it and reduce it to, say, for example, by 10% or 20%. This is how Kaizen can work even on the Chalta Hai thing. And I don't know whether this will happen or not, but my belief is that if Kaizen is implemented by the Chalta Hai, by the people who are using this, the devices or the work methodology based on Chalta Hai, they will probably come to the standard operating procedure. I hope I have answered this question.
Yeah, sir, pretty well. It was an excellent explanation to the question. Thank you. The next question goes is how Monozukuri can be implemented by management of MSMEs?
Okay, the first question was also related to MSME, and the second is also to MSME. This is one area on which the government of India is also putting a lot of focus, because there are many issues in the MSME at the moment. Prime issue is that they are not organized. So they may be very good. They may be very good in the skill level. And, they may not have access to certain things because they are not in the organized sector. As compared to this, the Japanese MSME is number one, slightly more organized, not slightly, I think, much more organized than what we have in our country. Then Japanese SME is always associated with bigger companies. There can be a parent company, a big company, or a large scale company. That large scale company will have probably a number of vendors, and then each vendor will have MSMEs catering to them. Now, this network is something which probably we do not have at the moment in the efficient or effective manner, the way it should be there. And Monozukuri, basically Monozukuri is the same Monozukuri which we are doing here. Monozukuri, as I explained, the first word mono stands for things. So thing can be a product, for example, biscuit or chocolate, and thing could be, for example, making some instruments like knife or measuring devices or any other instrument, or thing can be a product like automobile or a aeroplane or any other product. And Zukuri actually means creating that, making that. So Monozukuri is making the things. So the concept of Monozukuri itself is there in India also. People are making it. And there are many people in the MSMEs also who take a lot of pride in their product. When they make and then they observe the product, they find that it's not up to their mark. And I have seen some people in the MSME telling me, I will not sell it to you. I won't sell it to you. Even if you tell that, no, I need it, so it's fine. I'll be able to manage with this quality. There are people who say, no, I can't give this to you. So this means that there are some people in India who appreciates the Monozukuri, the quality requirement, to the extent that they would not even sell the product to the customer who is willing to buy that product or take that product fully knowing that that product has got some problems. So the concept itself remains, but the Monozukuri word, when we say in Japan, it really means something which serves the user's purpose perfectly. So Monozukuri is something I manufacture, but I manufacture it for somebody. This somebody is using this product for some particular purpose. And when this somebody uses this product for that some particular purpose, he relishes it, he cherishes it, he appreciates it, and he thinks when he's sitting, for a break or something, that he's grateful to the person who has manufactured it or who have created this. Now, this difference of Monozukuri, which is a common concept in Japan, whereas we have some examples of very good Monozukuri here in India, if that gap can be fulfilled, then I think our MSME probably can do the marvelous job of supplying quality products or quality components or quality sub-products to the bigger industry. And this will bring in a huge change. And it is actually the MSME which determines, if you see the success story of Maruti Suzuki in India, they brought their vendors from Japan in the beginning. And those vendors, they tied up with Indian industry, Indian counterparts, and created the joint ventures or joint venture companies here in India. Now, after 20 years or 30 years, these vendors have developed products for other companies on their own. And those products are quality-wise absolutely free from problem. They are able to sell it in the tough competition. That means the cost, delivery, quality, all are taken care of well. So Monozukuri is very important concept. Kaizen is very important concept. Both Kaizen also is practiced in India. It's not that it's not practiced. It may not be the term which is used here. People keep improving the things here also. But doing Kaizen in a systematic manner, doing Monozukuri the way it is done in Japan will certainly help the MSME in a very big way.
Thank you, sir. I think that was elaborative about explanation about Monozukuri. So in context to that, I think there is one question that is there any sequence to be followed to deploy these methods in an organization?
Yeah, there is a sequence. As I said that, you need to compare it with the ISO or the standard European mechanism, Six Sigma, or those lean system, etc., etc. Those systems, if you see, then those systems the books are written by academicians than the practitioners. So there are some practitioners who might have worked in industry, and then they become, they start training people, and they create some textbooks, or they write down the substance, and then the organizations come in. So ISO becomes an organization. The standard organizations, the systems, the lean system, for example, is somebody owns that system, so they sell that system. In Japan, this TPM, TQM, 5S, Gemba Kaizen is not sold by anybody. And as I said at the end, that these components had been there in Japan from the beginning. Now, when they try to find that if they need some industry who can do the work in their way, who can deliver the cost, quality, and delivery to the satisfaction of the Japanese company, then they found something has to be done to impart the training. And in this process, I found that 5S is the first step. And it's very simple. Everybody is doing housekeeping. The only problem is that when we do 5S here in India, we will say, I actually put the things in order all the time. And I don't put the things which are not required. That is Seri and Seton. Then I clean my machine every day. Now, Japanese will say, if you are cleaning your machine every day, why there is a leakage of oil? Then we will say that I cleaned it yesterday, the leakage was there, I'll clean it now. What Seso in Japanese mean that when you clean the machine and there was an oil leakage which you found yesterday, try to find out the oil leakage is happening from where. So the root cause of the oil leakage is addressed by the worker himself. This worker, he tells the maintenance person that I see the oil coming out from this particular spot almost every day. And this worker, together with the maintenance worker, they try to look at it and they find that oil is coming out from here, but the leakage is not from here, leakage is from some other source. So this means that you have been cleaning a spot where the oil was visible, but not the spot from where the oil was leaking. Therefore, this Japanese cleaning actually is to go to the root cause. That difference is there. So implementation of 5S, if it is not done in proper way, whether it is in Indian industry or in an Indian office, then people will say, I have been doing 5S. So the acceptance to the core is the difficult concept. And this is where I said that understanding and appreciating the system is most important thing. And one way of learning or understanding it, the Japanese language. If you see very clearly, then if you go deeper into these concepts, you'll find that it will very clearly say that there's a concept called, not concept, there's an expression called Seso wa Tenken Nari. And Seso means cleaning and Tenken means inspection. So which actually literally speaking, it means cleaning means inspection. So what does it mean? When you clean your machine, when you clean your product, when you clean your work table, it has got inspection built into it. that means you will not require inspection later on. So in the Japanese standard workplace, the product, when it comes out, it's free from defect. Whereas we will say that the defective products will be checked at the time of inspection. And if it is not found well, if it is not found as per the requirement, it will be taken out. So defect is allowed in the thinking which we have. Whereas defect is actually not allowed in the thinking when we go for the 5S. And Gemba Kaizen, 5S is the housekeeping. Gemba Kaizen is improvement of that particular, you find in the housekeeping, there is something which is difficult. You have cleaned the oil leakage yesterday, then you found the root cause also. You try to tighten that screw or tighten that particular place from where the oil was leaking. But next day you find again that the oil is leaking from there. So if it is beyond the control of a worker who works on the machine, then he goes to the maintenance department, and maintenance department does not maintain. Maintenance department does the improvement to block that leakage, to block that spot from where the leakage has been taking place. If he finds it difficult, even then the leakage happens, then this becomes a bigger project where the engineers come in and they find out what is the real cause. Is it the vibration which is making that particular spot loose and oil leaks from there? So it's a step-by-step thing. I talked about a concept called SGA, small group activity. So in order to carry out the Kaizen, you make a SGA, the small group, a team which carries out the small group activity. Small group activity carries out small improvements, and these improvements obviously would mean that they will not require much investment. It would obviously mean that they will not require too many equipment. It will obviously mean that it can be done by the people at the work floor itself. That means with the level of understanding and the level of capability which they have, with that itself, they can perform that. But if the improvement doesn't take place at that level, then it goes to the engineer level. And then that becomes a project under TPM and sometimes under TQM. So this is how it goes. So the stepwise, if you say, it will be 5S, Gemba Kaizen, TPM and TQM. But I talked about TPS deliberately because TPS is actually a combination of TQM plus TPM plus 5S plus Gemba Kaizen. So the elements can go together. Each person will have its own role to play. There's a difference that is required in the mindset. The mindset is that we say sometimes that machine hai kharab to hoti hi hai. In Japanese mindset, machine cannot fail. If the machine has a life or guarantee period of say 5 years, it should not fail during that period. Now this change of mindset is required. If we demand that machine should perform fault-free in 5 years, and if still the machine does not perform, it could be either because of manufacturing defect, or it could be because of maintenance issue or the running issue or the operation issue. So if there is a standard procedure for the operation, if there's a standard procedure for the maintenance, then it should perform perfectly. So this compromise on account of, because machine can fail anytime, or because a component of a machine can fail anytime. When we manufacture something, defect cannot be ignored. The defect, you cannot eliminate defect completely. Now this thinking is basically mindset. What excellence the Japanese normally targeted is that it should be a, basically QCD. That means the quality 100% means zero failure. Cost should not increase. That means if there is one defect, then you undo that defect. Undo means you will be dismantling or you will be repairing and then doing it again. That means cost, additional cost, additional time, which means delivery affected, cost affected, or this product itself will be discarded, which will add to the cost. So QCD is the target. Whatever you have planned, that QCD should be there. In order to obtain that, these tools are used in this order, if order you would like to specify. But I would say that any workplace, whether it's a desktop of a office, or whether it is a work floor, whether it is creation of some facility, or whether it is construction of a road. 5S, the housekeeping, is the base on which the work, that is something which is expected from every individual contributor. And on top of that, the Gemba Kaizen takes place. That means they keep improving their working methodology. They keep improving the comfort level. And there are some issues which are addressed through the schemes like TPM and TQM.
Thank you, sir. It was a wonderful Q&A, and thank you participants for such a useful questions and important questions. I will hand over I request for our president, Mr. Radia sir, to take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Radhika. Our distinguished and erudite speaker, Professor Ashok Kumar Chawla, my friends, Mr. Mukesh Bhai Patel and Yatindra Bhai Sharma. Professor Chawla, we are indeed very grateful to you for having accepted our invitation to deliver the inaugural address of the Zen Kaizen series of lectures. Yes, it was indeed a treat to listen to you, and with your lucid style, you could explain the finer aspects, in a very simple language, Professor Chawla, we remember you during our visit to Ahmedabad exactly 2 years ago with Ambassador Sujan Chinoy, and where you chaired the, Indo-Japan Business Summit held at AMA, where a lot of CEOs of Japanese companies were there. And we remember your address on 27 June during the inauguration of the Zen Kaizen at AMA, which was inaugurated by the Honorable Prime Minister. And once again, I thank you for enriching and inspiring, and, coming from a scholar like you, it's indeed a great take home from all of us. And I also thank my dear friend, Mr. Yatindra Bhai Sharma, not only for his generous contribution for setting up this academy, but for his continuous involvement and nurturing this new activity. I thank all the participants, for their presence and for this wonderful evening. Have a great weekend. And thank you. Arigato gozaimashita. Yeah. Namaste. Konbawa.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. Thank you. So we end today's session. Thanks, participants.